camouflage.
I like the idea of being the director, but I'm not that guy right now.
Great, I love it.
With James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy 3 in theaters now, we wanted to take a look back at his directorial debut, Slither, from 2006, a body horror, classic homage film with a star-studded cast. Here's an excerpt from a podcast's first film where we discuss the movie.
What did you think of this film just starting off?
I wasn't 100% sure what to expect with this film because I kind of went into it expecting it to be a spoof, a parody of old school monster horror films.
I love The Fly.
Tremors.
Gremlins. Nightmare on Elm Street.
The Brood. American Werewolf in London.
Critters.
Halloween.
I enjoy the feeling of being creeped out.
For sure.
But what I actually found was a pretty sincere take.
Almost a love letter to the horror genre of the 80s and 70s.
Yeah, like a pretty sincere homage, pulling from all of the tropes and stuff.
So to give an audience the summary, Bayden, tell them about the film.
An asteroid carrying a hive mind alien lands on Earth in a small town and infects a man named Grant. Its primary goal is to take over the world using worms that dig into people's brains, slithering, slippery worms.
Yes.
And it turns them into zombie-like members of this hive mind. The only people standing in its way are Grant's wife, Starla, who the alien falls in love with, the police chief, Bill, who's in love with Starla, the asshole mayor, Jack, and a girl named Kylie who briefly mind-linked with the alien and learned of its plan. Together, they are able to kill the alien at its source and prevent the apocalypse.
It's basically a monster movie, a zombie movie, and an alien movie in 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Which is the funniest part about it, I think.
Yeah.
Because it is sincere. I think that this is not making fun of horror movies. I think it's coming from someone who really likes them.
100%, yeah.
But at the same time, it's so funny because it starts out, you're like, oh, it's an alien taking over humans.
Yes.
And then it's a zombie film. But then the zombies start spitting acid and talking. And so every time you see these monster movies, they usually have like one or two like key traits.
And you can pretty much predict what they're gonna do almost.
Exactly, right? Like you'll have a mossy monster that throws vines and stuff like that. And it's pretty predictable. But with this movie, they just gave it all of the abilities. Like they just kept giving it more stuff that it was able to do.
This is the strongest creature, the ultimate killing organism.
And obviously the characters are confused as well because it's like, what is its limitations? It's not even just its like weapon capabilities. Its plan has so many stages.
Yeah.
Here's the alien's plan for taking over the world in a nutshell. Infect a person. Get that person to kidnap another person and feed them a bunch of meat until that person pops, ejecting a bunch of worms, which will take over a bunch of people who will then merge with the original person in a giant goop monster.
Yes.
And that will just encompass the globe.
But then you also have other people who you breed, and then you also just have other zombies. It's like you have like 3 classes of people. Ultimate monster, breeders, zombies, and then just people he just sacrifices for no reason.
It's probably the most complicated alien take over the world plan I've ever seen. Because it just has the most nonsensical set of stages. Like, how has this alien ever successfully done this?
Listen, I think this is why the alien got kicked off of its planet in the first place. Because it was just incapable of making plans, and all the other aliens were like, oh god.
It's like Venom. Isn't that a thing with Venom where he was like an outcast on his home planet?
Yeah, and here's my thing about this alien, okay? You mentioned how when it breeds someone, everyone has this desire to eat meat, whether it's like rotten flesh or just like raw chicken at the grocery store. Maybe that's why he got kicked off his planet, because he didn't want to take over the world. He just wanted to host a group barbecue.
He does seem like fairly unenthusiastic about taking over the world. Like he's putting in a half-assed effort.
Exactly.
For sure.
He almost wants the heroes to win.
Yeah, like he's pretty lazy. He's just kind of kicking back and like seeing what'll happen.
Okay, you know how he breeds someone? He has like those 2 like tentacles that come out of his chest that are like spiked.
Yeah.
When they initially came out of his chest, I thought they were just like raw spools of sausage that he was gonna cook.
Like he's a sausage manufacturer? Yeah. You know those machines where they like pull the sausages out? You just thought he was producing sausages from all the raw meat he was eating?
And listen, I must have been conditioned to believe this because the amount of times that Grant, when he gets controlled, says meat in this movie are unreal.
Meat.
Because when he says it, he has like this wide-eyed look, and he does this like really goofy smile.
Yeah, well, he's played by Michael Rooker.
Oh my God.
James Gunn alumni, right?
Yondu. He was in the Suicide Squad.
I think this was the first time they worked together.
One thing I'll say about him, he is high energy this entire production, and he is very expressive.
Very expressive, very odd. Some of the acting choices are a little weird. Like, he has all these weird little phrases and sayings that he says, like killer.
Yeah, hit me again there, killer. Oh, hey there, killer.
Which is one of the ways that we learn as an audience that he still has intelligence.
Yeah. It almost retains part of its memories.
It does, yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that's interesting.
And that's
very
part of the
clever.
reason why it falls in love with Starla.
So the alien attacks Grant, and the previous day he had an argument with his wife before he got taken over. And the alien kind of goes back home, and Starla wants to make it up to him. And so the alien like falls in love with him, I guess because it's the first time he's ever been slept with.
I guess so. And might I say, when he gets controlled, he goes into this woods because he's like, it's not really cheating. He's like...
It is. It's an odd relationship that they have.
Yeah, because he's like making out with her, but then he also goes to visit her, but then he's like, no, I can't do this.
The implication is that he's not a very good husband. And like there's an implication that she maybe married him for his money because he's quite wealthy.
Literally every other character Michael Rooker has played has been dirt poor.
That's true.
Gone to Walking Dead, you know?
And this character does not carry himself like a rich person.
No, he carries himself like a swamp
He
trailer
does.
park guy.
He does. Even before he's taken over, he's like groaning and like hunched over. And yeah, so they use the horror movie trope where like a couple go off into an isolated area to like make out.
Yes.
And then they get attacked or infected or whatever.
And yes, we see the slug. It comes out of this egg thing almost.
Mm-hmm.
And the opening it comes out is very... What's the opposite of phallic? Because it looks very...
Vaginal.
Yeah, it looks very vaginal.
It does. It does.
And it shoots up, and we get this like weird CGI overlay. Did it not remind you of when you were like in science class and the teacher shows you like those X-ray educational videos?
Because it's the only time anything like this happens in the movie, but when Michael Rooker gets infected, we get an X-ray shot of it going into his brain.
Yeah, there's like organs, his skeleton.
Yeah, which I think we would have got the idea that it went into his brain without that.
Let's talk about the cast for a second.
Let's talk
Nathan
about
Fillion. I didn't realize he was in this movie.
No, I didn't. I mean, this was one of his more low-key roles, I guess.
Yeah.
But I have to say, he has the same kind of energy as Brendan Fraser for me.
Yeah.
Where he just has like a star power. He carries himself like a charismatic action actor.
Yeah. So he's one of the four main casting members. He plays Bill Party. He's the cop. And one thing I like about him is he's not like the typical horror hero where he's like, he knows exactly what to do. He's just as weirded out as everyone else.
I know, it's great. I enjoyed in films where the characters are as confused as the audience
Yeah.
are. I also like in this that he's surprised, but he's also competent. The whole police force is actually quite competent. At the same time, this movie uses horror movie tropes, like the couple going into the woods and getting attacked and infected, stuff like that. It also uses the trope of like, the town mayor doesn't want to talk about the problem because there's like an event going on.
Yes.
So they do a lot of these classic tropes.
Yes.
But they also subvert them. I feel like in the classic horror movie, the police are incompetent. But in this one, they're actually good. They believe that it's a problem right away.
Yep.
They get on the hunt right away. They back each other up.
Literally, as soon as this girl who was there when he got infected, it goes missing, the police go to Starla's house. They're like, have you seen Grant? We need to call him.
There's no mystery about who it might be. They go to Grant like right away because
Yeah.
they suspect him.
They do end up failing, but they don't fail because of their own stupidity.
No.
They fail because the monster is smarter in that moment.
Exactly. It tricks them. Grant is able to outsmart them and like lure them to places and stuff like that. Like that is one of the tropes that they subvert, and I think it's really good.
Yes.
Like I enjoyed seeing the police officers working together, believing the witnesses and stuff like that. Another big name, Elizabeth Banks.
That was shocking to me as well.
Yeah. She is Grant's wife, so she has to play this, like, kind of more innocent character. She does action. She also, like, tricks him at the end.
An interesting parallel is that of King Kong. Like, she's almost in love with the monster, almost.
Oh, she even has the, like, white dress.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
I never would have made that connection, actually. Let's talk about the effects real quick.
Okay, so before we even talk about any of the specifics, I was just surprised how well they hold up.
This movie does hold up basically every shot.
Yeah.
There isn't a lot of CGI monster stuff except for the slugs.
Yes.
Those are entirely CGI. And then, of course, there's Grant. He turns into this, like, tentacled fleshy slime monster looks incredible.
And there's people like coming on the sides, like they're almost like grafted to
yeah,
him.
yeah, they're like merging into him.
Fully practical.
I think it was actually Michael Rooker underneath all of it, which
It was.
good on him for being game, because that looked uncomfortable as hell.
There's a funny moment in behind the scenes where he talks that he had to go see a masseuse.
Really?
At the end of every day because the weight of the makeup on one side caused him to have like a tick in his neck.
Oh, really?
Apparently it took him 8 hours in the chair to get into the full makeup.
They do a thing with his mouth where like the right side of his mouth is like teeth and fangs
It
and stuff.
extends almost off his face, like it makes it look bigger, his head.
Yeah.
Another really good effect is, we talked about this briefly, how the police eventually fail. And this is because Grant leads them to this barn, and they find Brenda, the woman who he got infected with.
Yeah.
But this is the catch. Brenda has become this 3-meter high, tall, spherical person, short, stubby arms. You can't even see her legs.
I'm gonna quote James Gunn when I say it's a boob and her head is the nipple.
Yeah, literally.
Those are his words, not mine. And she's swollen up because Grant captured her and has been feeding her all this meat. Meat.
Yeah, and I will say, when I saw that, it was scary. I'll
It
be
was.
honest.
You know what else was scary? Genuinely, like, scary. Kylie, who is attacked by the slugs but manages to escape, she's hiding in this car. And her family, who's all been infected, come out and surround the car. And you know, zombie movies do this a lot where you're, like, trapped in a space and then the zombies are all outside.
Yes.
But what made this one different is they're intelligent. So they're talking. They're, like, calling her out.
They're trying to lure her out by pretending to be normal.
And the kid actor in that was really good. She had the crazy eyes.
And that was another scary point, because the slugs, basically, they get into your body through your mouth and they crawl to your brain. Kylie, she's in the family house. Her mom gets infected. She vomits blood on her. But we can hear the kids getting infected behind the doors. That was actually chilling.
For sure.
Probably the scariest thing, and this is, I thought, was another really good effect, is actually revolving the mayor. This is what freaked me out the most.
Oh, really?
So the mayor gets trapped. He gets taken away by the aliens, and he gets thrown into this basement. And the scene starts off. He has this lighter. He's trying to light it, and eventually he does. And you see all these townspeople with these pregnant, bulbous blue bellies from the slugs, all eating these different carcasses. He's like freaked the fuck out. He runs up the stairs, and eventually the monster gets him, and he gets thrown back down the stairs as well.
Yeah.
And there's this point of realization on his face where he like sees this human corpse.
Yeah.
And he starts eating the arm, but he like doesn't want to.
Yeah.
And I thought he really sold it well.
He did.
But then the kicker of it is Bill and Kylie, they go into the house to rescue Starla, who gets captured by Grant, and the fucking mayor jumps out of nowhere, grabs their leg, and he has this bulbous egg coming out
of his shoulder,
neck.
and he's like,
Kill me.
and Bill just caps him right in the head, like no hesitation.
Part of the reason why it works was they didn't know he was gonna be there.
Oh, really?
He scared them.
Interesting.
So their expressions are actually real.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
This is a really well put together movie. I have a lot of compliments for it. Like, I couldn't pick out too much wrong with it, actually. I like, again, how sincere it is. You know, it's not making fun of horror movies. Although there are aspects of it that are.
There is certainly some comedic stuff in this.
Did you notice? This was, I think, my favorite one because it's so small. You know the trope in horror movies where, like, a girl trips?
Yes.
Maybe this was a blooper, but they're going towards the house. Nathan is going with Kylie, and she trips on nothing. There's nothing on the ground. It's a completely flat surface. They're not even running. They're, like, moving at a slow pace. It's a very short shot, and she just trips. It could have been a blooper. I want to believe that that was them making fun of the falling over thing.
Some other funny stuff. I don't know if you noticed this. This is when Grant goes to visit Brenda, because Brenda has an infant child. The child is in the crib. And instead of playing with a toy, she is playing with a whole tomato.
Really?
Not sliced, not cut. A whole tomato.
Would it be better if it was cut? I feel like it's, like, terrible either way.
I mean, it's not better, you know?
No, it's not.
Another funny thing is the concert, Dear Cheer.
Dear Cheer, yes.
It's basically like marking the open season for them to all go hunt. And let's talk about this for a second. They're all basically square dancing in like this small runtown bar.
Yeah.
They're all wearing these cheap Christmas plush deer antlers. And it's like some sort of like midsummer hunting cult almost.
Yeah.
And there's this one really funny scene where the mayor goes up, he gives this speech of being like, let's go kill those deer.
Let's get 'em, deer.
And you just see this old guy hold up these authentic antlers and use them to clap. And he holds them high above his head like he's summoning the deer.
No, that whole scene was really funny because it's, again, I think a spoof on the whole, the town's getting together to do do something crazy
Yeah.
kind of thing. To get back to Nathan Fillion as well, the physical comedy in this movie is actually, I think, really great.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good stunts. Nathan Fillion gets slammed about a bunch, like smashed through windows.
Yeah, there's one scene, this is at the climax of the film, where he basically has this grenade from the police station.
The funniest part in the whole movie for me was this running grenade joke.
And he basically pulls the pin, and this is the longest grenade that goes off.
It takes like 20 minutes to go off.
And he keeps trying to throw it at the monster, but it gets kept knocked behind like shelves and stuff, and eventually like him and the grenade, they get pushed out through a wall, and the grenade rolls into the pool and blows up.
The look on Fillion's face was just like so perfect.
It captured it so well.
There's a bit earlier when Fillion's getting attacked by like a rabid dog.
Oh,
or
yeah,
is it a deer?
It was a deer.
It was a deer. And Kylie comes up to save him with like a fire extinguisher. And she's like, it's the moment where you are over the monster and you say like a badass line.
Yeah.
But instead she just says,
Hey, motherfucker.
hey, motherfucker. You couldn't come up with a deer-based pun?
And that's funny too, because the deer even reacts like it's a person. Like
Yeah.
it tilts
It
its
looks
head,
up, it's like, huh?
like it's having a conversation.
You know, it would be the perfect place for, I'm trying to think of a deer pun. Hunting season's over.
Yeah.
But she just says, hey, motherfucker. Yeah, same with the grenade bit. He pulls the pin on the grenade, and
Yes.
he's about to throw it, and the second he pulls it, and he's halfway through saying, like, his heroic badass line, and it knocks it out of his hand. Really funny stuff. One other thing is that Grant has the two poker things that, like, implant into things, and once you're hit with both of them, that's when you kind of join the hive and get super hungry and stuff like that.
Yes.
Bill, in the climax, gets stabbed with one of them, and it starts, like, injecting a fluid into him, like a white fluid.
Yeah.
But he manages to stop the second one from going into him. And that's how he ends up defeating the monsters. He makes it swallow a bunch of, like, propane and then lights it on fire. And at the end, he's lying there, and his wound is oozing. And Kylie kind of leans over and quietly goes like, you have to be hit with both of them for the main infection to happen. And it's like, even if it takes both of them to make him part of the hive, I think it would be really funny and kind of appropriate for the movie if he just died from an infection.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he gets up, he does his heroic walk out onto the lawn.
He falls back in the pool.
He falls into the pool, and then, like, he's just dead because that stuff was definitely toxic.
It was
and there was a lot of it in
It was
him.
also a huge spike.
James Gunn is in the movie, briefly.
That was crazy, because, like, James Gunn is just one of the teachers, and he's hitting on Starla?
He jump scares us. He
Yeah,
really
like,
jump scares
like
us.
I had a visceral reaction.
Yeah, it's his only scene.
But that being said, Bayden, how would you rate this film out of every time Michael Rooker says meat?
Meat. We need a final meat counter.
How many meats are said in this film? Honestly, I'd rate it like a solid 7.5 or an 8 out of 10 meats for me.
I agree. I'd maybe even push it to like an 8.5 because it's an hour and a half. If it was 2 hours, it would drag.
Yeah.
Like really drag.
I would say if you're a fan of James Gunn, if you're a fan of the horror franchise, and also if you just like any of the actors in here, or you're interested in this kind of body horror, especially if you like The Thing
Yeah.
and different things like that, you know, it's a fun popcorn movie.
Again, I have no complaints. It's entertaining. All of the actors are funny. I'm surprised that this isn't more of a cult classic. Because it has everything you could want, sincerely, plus more.
But with that being said, I think we should get into behind the scenes and learn just how
To slither.
yes!
Just how we slither.
Here we go.
White on set.